welcome back in here to News Junkies. Our guest this time around is Henry Gonzales, and Henry is the Agricultural Commissioner here in Ventura County. And with that introduction, welcome in here, Henry.
Thank you, Bill. Great to be here.
Well, it's good to have you. We got a couple of things that we want to address as we're in this together today, one of which is the impact of agriculture in Ventura County. How significant is it?
It's a great question, Bill. And let me begin by saying that agriculture here in Ventura County it makes Ventura County. If you consider all of the impacts that it has, beginning with providing us with this beautiful food that we eat here locally and that we send to folks not so lucky to live in Ventura County, folks all over the world that don't have the climate that is suitable to produce the array of crops that we do. But primarily, agriculture here in Ventura County provides us with the beautiful landscape as well as all these healthy fruits, vegetables, and beautiful ornamental plants.
To that point, Henry, you were telling myself and the crew that I work with before we sat down to do the interview that Ventura County actually got a designation as being what?
Well, that was really great. The USDA put together a report based on a survey of the climatic conditions in all the counties in the country, and what we here in Ventura already know is the best place to live. Absolutely the best place to live. And that was really underlining what I believe most of us already know, and that's why we're here.
Well, I know in the almost 50 years that I have lived in Ventura County, I tell you, this is such an ideal place to live, although lately we've had a little bit of a heat wave going on and expected to continue. Now, the crops that are grown here in Ventura County, which are the ones that are most predominant?
Well, strawberries by a long shot is our number one crop and has been since 2001. Next up is there's always a bit of a competition here between avocados, lemons, and now raspberries coming up. But we've also had nursery crops are big for us here, always in the top 10, as well as peppers, tomatoes, cut flowers, and then here the past couple of years we've had cilantro in the top 10 the past couple of years.
That must be with all the salsa that's being made, which, by the way, I understand is the number one condiment these days all across the United States.
I heard that too, and makes perfect sense that cilantro would be an up-and-coming commodity for us here in Ventura County.
What about other forms of citrus like oranges, limes?
We still have some other citrus like mandarins are actually a citrus that we have more and more acreage of. Valencia's not so much anymore. It's not as profitable anymore. That's reduced in acreage here the past few years. But then we have some grapefruit as well. But lemons is our main citrus crop here. We are the number one lemon producing county in the nation.
Wow, that is truly amazing. Let's shift gears just a little bit. I want to find out the significance of the drought that we've been having in Ventura County. How has that impacted the agricultural community?
Well, the drought has impacted the agricultural community in a most real way, in that you got to have water. You got to have water for farming, and when you don't have water, that of course is a big issue. So that is hurting us. There's less water, and then also the quality of the water is most important for us. I was mentioning strawberries earlier. Strawberries are a very salt intolerant crop, which means that the quality of the water becomes that much more important for strawberry production. So we can't really have poor quality water, and the drought has brought us poor quality water. As the water levels drop down, the solute levels go up, and there we have a recipe for bad water.
And so that would have an impact on the production of strawberries, which, that could be less profitable for the farmers and perhaps even more costlier to the consumer.
It does have an impact, and it may have an impact, believe it or not, on other crops. Because if you can imagine, you have a crop like strawberries that requires better water, and you have other commodities that are not so picky about the water that they can grow with. And so as a farmer, you're paying for the highest ag land in the country. What do you grow? If you have good water, do you grow celery that has a lower return, or do you grow strawberries that has a higher return? I think that most would grow the strawberries if they have the quality water as opposed to growing celery. So in that example, celery would lose and strawberries would continue to gain.
As you take a look over the landscape of Ventura County, can you give us kind of a ballpark as to how many acres are out there dedicated to agriculture?
Yes, we have about 190,000 acres dedicated to agriculture, and that is between approximately 93,000 acres that are irrigated and about another 97,000 that are not irrigated, except for whatever falls out of the sky. It's primarily rangeland where we have our cattle feeding, and some dry land farming, but overall about 190,000 acres of farmland.
Can you describe for us what dry farming is? That's a new term to me.
Well, dry farming is maybe a misnomer in that it's not totally dry. Dry land farming depends on whatever falls out of the sky, as opposed to irrigated farming, which you irrigate. Here in Ventura County, thankfully, we irrigate with groundwater, which is superior water than water that flows through ditches and canals to get here, because that picks up solutes. So we use primarily groundwater to irrigate. So dry land farming, whatever falls out of the sky. So you can imagine here with these back-to-back-to-back years of drought, nothing is falling out of the sky, or very little. And so dry land farmers are hurting pretty much.
Well, as you take a look towards the end now of 2015 and going on into our next year in 2016, has there been any reports of the drought perhaps coming to an end or getting even back to a more normal rainfall?
Well, the reports that I've read are that this will be an El Nino year, which generally means that we'll have at least average and likely more than average rainfall, which is exactly what we need to replenish our aquifer here. And so those reports, plus if you just kind of been paying attention to the weather this past year, it really seems to be more of a typical year for us weather-wise. We had our June gloom right around in June. It seemed like we're going to have a more normal rainfall year and no drought.
Well, that would be good.
That would be excellent.
So as you take a look at the future for agriculture, do you see less acreage in the future, remaining the same, perhaps even adding some?
Well, I see all of the above, in that we will continue to lose acreage where there is more marginal ground, where it's not as fertile, where there's less water, no water, or less quality water. We're going to lose some of that ground, but we may be opening new areas for production, maybe on the hillsides, some orchards. So it really depends. So I see both happening simultaneously, and that's kind of been the history here in the county. You have some new lands opening up for agriculture and others being put into other uses.
Now, you gave us a figure about the acreage, and you were also mentioning before we sat down to capture this conversation that you involve GIS tracking to measure out the acreage. What is that process all about?
Yes, it's a very precise system of measurement, the GIS, and we have GIS as part of our pesticide permitting program. That way we know exactly where the farmer is using the pesticides, and we know what he's growing, how much of anything he's using in regards to pesticides, and we can measure exactly the area that they are farming on. So using that system, that's how we've been able to develop a very exact number as to how many acres are being farmed.
Now, there is a difference. You talk about the use of pesticides. There is a difference between organic pesticides and traditional pesticides. What are some of the differences?
But generally, the difference is that conventional pesticides that are not organic, are sometimes synthetic. And that is the biggest difference. Organic, these are natural materials, naturally occurring. But one interesting fact about the whole organic versus conventional pesticide use is that when folks convert to organic, they find that sometimes they have to use even more pesticides more often than when they were conventional. And the reason is simple. It's that conventional pesticides are generally more toxic. They work better, they work longer, and so you don't have to apply as much as often. But that's just the way it works.
Now, there's an area that perhaps is a little bit on the controversial side. Are there any growers in Ventura County that are going with raising crops that are genetically modified?
No, there's no crops here that are genetically modified.
Well, that's good to know, because there is, really a strong movement about to at least get labels on cans and other products that would have those different crops that are genetically modified. So that's a good thing to know.
Yes, we don't have those types of crops here.
Well, that like I say, that's wonderful to know. Now, if people wanted more information about agriculture here in Ventura County, I'm going to invite you to look right into our camera and perhaps give out a website and any phone numbers and the event coming up.
Well, I may be a little partial on this, but the best website is our own website here for the Ventura County Ag Commissioner's Office, which you can find on www.ventura.org. You can make a search. You'll find not only information about agriculture in Ventura County.
Well, I'm glad that we got that information out, and we've been visiting with Mr. Henry Gonzales, the Agricultural Commissioner here in Ventura County. Henry, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, and we thank you for joining us. I'm Bill DeFoi with the Heritage Media Group.